righty, ladies. What time is it?
Ooh,
Ask
ask
Yo.
your
your auntie. Yeah.
I needed
I
that
love,
little dance
I
after
love
that
how like
combo.
I love that you get one black person dancing. Any other black person in
Turn
the
up.
room catch it.
You get at least a shoulder shimmy. At bare minimum.
Oh,
Bare
shoulder
minimum, you
shimmy.
get a
Oh, can I throw one thing in real quick before we get to that? Just
What's that?
circling back in regards to the Supreme Court leak. This was the first time a draft had been leaked, but this was that first time a decision had been leaked. And guess which case was the one that was leaked?
Oh,
Roe v.
this one?
Wade.
Exactly.
Roe v. Wade case was
Yeah.
leaked by a clerk. It was printed in Time magazine hours before the official report came out. Catch me on Facebook. I put the link out there. I'll email it to y'all there.
Hey.
And the clerk didn't end up getting fired.
I love it.
And they actually end up getting another term on the court.
There we go.
So,
Good for them.
That's the one good thing about, I guess, democracy. There's ways to get the information that you need to get out there.
There sure is.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. There's ways to do what it needs to be done, to shake up shit. So, but all right. So this question, who wants to read it here?
I can read it.
Okay.
It says, should you break up with someone due to your own mental problems, even though you are working through them consistently, but seems like there are days where it's worse than others? Currently getting a therapist and have had therapy on and off. I would like this to remain anonymous, please. So we're not going to say who it was, but should you break up with someone due to your own mental health problems?
My initial, okay, so I'll take a stab if that's okay. Because I see that when you start showing the teeth and like,
That's right.
like this could go a whole bunch of different ways. I don't think there's a cut and dry answer with this particular question. I think every individual has to make a decision that's specific for them. Just because just because a person has mental health issues or mental problems, as they're putting it, doesn't necessarily equal that they can't continue to be in a relationship. Because one of the best things about being in a relationship is having somebody that can support you and can encourage you and can be there for you as you're working through those issues. And so, I don't think that it's a cut as dry as breaking up with somebody. Now, however, what I would say is that if dealing with the context of a relationship and working through your own mental health journey is too overwhelming for you, I think that's the question that you as an individual should be asking yourself. And if the answer to that is yes, it's 100% okay to say, you know what, I'm breaking up with you in the name of love. And quite frankly, breaking up with somebody doesn't mean breaking up forever. Yep. It could just mean I'm breaking up for right now because I need to focus on myself.
Great snaps on that. I mean, I agree as it relates to that. I mean, people have to be ready for a relationship. People have to be, but then you have to be, it's relationships are hard. They're not easy things to do. They're not for people that have all their faculties together even, right? And so, you need to be able to withstand that, right? And if you're not in a position to be able to weather that storm, sometimes the hard decisions have to be made to maybe this isn't the right time from that perspective. But there's a show out that I love that's I think it's Love on the Spectrum. So they have folks that have autism that are, I haven't made it all the way through. I think I made it through 2 or 3 episodes, but I'm just like fascinated.
And it's 2 seasons.
Oh, there's 2 seasons. Okay.
Yes, there's 2 seasons.
I need a binge. I need a binge. But it's about the love journey of individuals that are on the autism spectrum, right? And everybody has access to love and should be able to find that in their life if that's what it is that they want. And just because they're individuals that may be dealing with mental health challenges either as part of their life's experience and their life's journey, or if it's a temporary blip in your life's experience, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take yourself out of the running and take yourself out of the market based on that.
Yeah.
What about you, Ral?
What are you thinking, girl?
My initial thought is you might have had mental problems before you got in a relationship, so why now are you running from it in a
Mm.
way? And I agree with Dewan, like too, like if it's becoming too overwhelming for your own sake, then
Mm-hmm.
definitely like that might be the option. But I hope you're not running from a good situation just because you don't want to burden someone. If they're not telling you they're burdened, and maybe they, I don't know, maybe there's lack of communication there, I don't know, but if they're not telling you it's heavy for them, don't assume that you're being a burden.
That's a
And
great point.
and continue to work on yourself, and if they're standing strong with you, you got a good
Mm-hmm.
one. You know, so that's maybe just my only other maybe tidbit. It's just like, don't run just because you're scared that it might become too much for everyone. If it becomes too much for you and you know it, and you know yourself, and you know that maybe it's going to make you act out in a way that's going to hurt the other person, then yes, you might need to step back, but at least have that conversation with them and telling them why. And like Dewan said, it might need to be a timeout. It might not be forever. It might be just a, this moment in time, I'm really finding myself either spiraling or whatever it may be, and I just can't do this relationship because, like Z said, it is work. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times you have to be present and you have to want to work at it. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's even putting yourself on the back seat for a little bit. And like we always kind of say, it's not always 50-50. Sometimes it's 80-20. Sometimes it's 99-1. You know?
Not
And
99.1. Right.
that's the theme of
99
2022,
problems, but
99.
ain't one.
But so if you know that you're just not going to be able to pick up the slack when they're needing it, then
Mhm.
yes, it might be a good step. But don't run away, especially if they haven't said you're being a burden. If they're supporting you, if they're being your biggest support fan, that means that person wants you to get well, wants you to be your best self, wants
Mhm.
you, and is there to help you do so. So
Yeah. What are you thinking, Boo?
Um, I have a lot of different emotions when it comes to this because anyone, and y'all included, that listen to the podcast knows how active I speak out on my own mental health journey. And if you are a new listener, I have been battling depression for a couple of years now and anxiety on top of that. I actually take antidepressants and medication for my anxiety every single day. And I see a therapist every other Saturday at 8 a.m. as well. And I can say for someone who depression has gotten me down a lot, for those who may not have experienced depression, it's hard to understand the feeling when someone says they feel like a burden, because when you are going through depression, it feels like you are just going down a rabbit hole and there is no light at the end of the tunnel, and everything feels like it is, you are making everything worse. Even like my relationship, there were times when even I was just like, and Fizz was great. Fizz has always been there, being like, you can talk to me. Even my aunties, my sisters have been like, we there for you, etc. And yeah, I've seen me have those conversations and I've just been like, I thank y'all so much, but I just don't feel it. It is hard for me to feel it. And the truth is with mental health is sometimes we physically can't do it ourselves. And so sometimes I would say maybe outside of therapy, look and talking to a doctor about getting on antidepressants. That's one thing I would suggest for someone who struggles with mental health, because I was going through depression. And when I tell you that I have so much to be blessed and so much to be grateful for, I had a roof over my head. I just got a new job. I have a great man. I have all these things going for me. There was not shit wrong with me in my life. And I still felt like I was not enough.
yeah, yeah.
Like it was not enough, you know? And that's when it hit me. And it was just like, I can't do this by myself. And so I love the notion of being like, hey, reach out to people. But sometimes people aren't the answer. Sometimes it is medication. You might need to actually have medication, because for someone to go through depression, the last thing I want to do is bother someone else who's going through something else. We all just got out of the pandemic. So a
Mhm.
lot of us who battled with depression didn't want to speak up about how we're feeling, because we all were just locked up in the house. So people already going through their own type of little versions of depression and being cooped up, etc. So you don't want to add to that. And then you got people being like, oh, well, I'm still here for you. And it's like, well, now I feel weak. Why can't I be as strong as you? Why do I need you? Here you are helping me, and now I look weak to you. So now you may not even help me. Like the spiral is real. And so when I say this to now other people who are being there to support people with mental health, take the person for their words as they are and not to assume that they can handle more, or that that your help is what they may need, because it may be bigger than just you and the support that you lean. Because although kind of Duane, you had some point about one of the nice things about being in a relationship is having someone lean on. With depression, that's not a lean on that anyone with depression would want to, because you feel like an anchor, because you feel like you're already sinking. The last thing I want to do is sink the only life support that I have to me, to my left, to my right, down with me, And so it's hard to be like, I want to stay in a relationship because I got this person here. I don't want to drag that person down with me. So I would run even faster because of that. So I would say to the person with mental health, maybe talk to your therapist and see them more often. You said on and off, so maybe that's an inconsistency there. So maybe you're not getting out of therapy that you need, and look into medication as well.
One thing that I want, yeah, go ahead.
Really quickly, I just want to acknowledge two things. One, the fact that Anonymous has chosen to invest time in therapy.
Yeah.
Kudos, because one of the best things that an individual can do is finding someone who can be objective, who can give them counsel and advice and help them work through whatever it is that they're working through. And so I want to echo, Jerome, what you had said about, maybe they need to be more consistent with their therapy. And I also want to piggyback that with saying, if you're not finding the results with the therapist you're working with, there might be another opportunity for you to seek out another therapist that better understands your situation. Because just because a therapist works for your friend, if you got a recommendation or referral or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that they will work for you. So just know that that's an option. So that's the first thing I wanted to just acknowledge. The second thing I want to acknowledge is the fact that you are also considering the impact of your condition on your partner, because that's huge. Because oftentimes we all are going through, shit and caboodles, for whatever it is that we're feeling. And we're only focused on how it impacts us. And the fact that you have the emotional, intellectual wherewithal to think about the impact of your journey on the person that you're with is huge. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge those two things. I think it's really important that as you're going through whatever it is that you're going through, the fact that you reached out for help, the fact that you're considering, the person that you're with along this journey, and the fact that you've engaged in some kind of activities to give you an objective perspective to help you work through those. Those are all three things that I would say, as you're struggling on those worst days, those are three things that you're doing really, really well, that can be an anchor for you. And I'm sorry, Z, you were going to say something
to us as well.
So that's number 4.
That's huge, because it shows that you're wanting to do the right thing for yourself, your significant other, and just your community as a whole, because this is a great topic for us to really dive into on here. So I appreciate that as well.
No, Dewan really hit on one of the things I was going to reference, was the making sure you have the right therapist. I've had many friends that have come to me in regards to, hey, where do I find a Black gay therapist? And I've gotten into some very heated fights on Facebook and social media where folks have unfriended me, and I'm like, bye, because here's the thing, and this is a question for the group here. My position was, people need to find a therapist that they're comfortable with. If you're a gay male and you feel more comfortable speaking to a gay male that knows what that life experience is, and you don't have to spend majority of your therapy time explaining things that just explaining life, and explaining, your perspective and how the world views you and everything. If you can just cut to the chase and then get to the root of what's going on, then there's nothing wrong with that. And there was there was a Caucasian gay man that
Yeah, it's always one.
disagreed with that perspective and was like, why would you, all you're going to do is pick somebody from the echo chamber. Any therapist should be able to help you. No, because the same thing with
Mm-mm.
a female there. A
Mm-mm.
female, a woman may not feel comfortable having certain conversations with the male therapist because he doesn't live life as a woman, right? And so, there are resources out there now, more the resources than there were before, for people to be able to find those LGBT therapists, those Black therapists, those trans therapists, people that have the specific knowledge and experience are going to be able to help you. So I know this individual said that they were going to therapy off and on. Why are you going off and on? Right? Is the person that you're seeking this help from not the right fit for you? And if they're not, if you haven't failed by them not being the right fit for you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and make sure that you're able to find the person that is the right fit for you, and that is not your failure. There's just sometimes there's square, you can't force a square peg in a round hole, so there you go. And the
Yeah.
other part that I want to make sure that I reference is that we as Black people, you know, don't always go for help and don't always want to take medication and things of that nature. And so that's something that that's a cycle that we have to break. And we as
Mhm.
younger members of the Black community,
Yeah.
I'll say younger, have to break that cycle and make it okay for folks to be able to seek help and okay for folks to be
Yeah.
able to seek and take medication if they need it, because there is this
Word.
stigma that comes along with it. And I think culturally as Black folks, that there's this standoffishness in regards to doing that, and we need to be able to break free from that.
I will say when I started my journey on medication, um, I call it journey because I've had to change it a couple times.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Like the first one I took, I can't remember the name of it. When I tell you, bitch was feeling good. Like I was, look, bitch, had me put down my sweater like Mr. Rogers, bitch. I was saying that's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
She was throwing that
But
shoe. She said,
but let me tell you, but a bitch couldn't have an orgasm to save her life. I'm telling you,
"Oh
it was like
wow."
it was to the point it was a hate. I'm like, I'd have been doing this for too long now. This is just it's gonna happen. I don't even. I'm just over it. Like it was a no for me. So I had to go to my doctor and be like, okay,
It's gotta be
this
something
ain't it,
else.
But I ain't gonna lie, it was an
Mix me
awkward
a new cocktail.
conversation.
Come on now.
But I'm telling you, when I went to my doctor, and again, it matters to have people who understand you. Like my doctor is a gay person of color, so he's a gay man, and he's a gay Asian man specifically. Um, and so like being having a gay doctor makes it easier to have certain conversations. So I
Yes.
understand to Z's point about that representation, even with your therapist, because it matters. And my therapist is a Black man too,
Hey.
and he bisexual.
Yes.
So like again, it matters. It really does, because it allows you to unlock a a level of vulnerability and
Hmm.
comfortableness with them that comes so much natural and quicker.
Yeah.
And
So
you touched on something too. I don't even think you realize you touched on it. That you changed your medication. That like
Yeah.
yes.
it's not just going to be one
Hmm.
medication
Yeah.
potentially. Like you might have
Absolutely.
a journey with the medication as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid. Don't be scared of it. Speak up.
Speak up.
Yeah. I mean, three years ago this month is when I had my first breakdown and I had a panic attack and everything. And I'm so grateful for my aunties, because I'm telling you, I was on that phone with both of them girls being like, the world is crashing. My man in Europe, I'm all by myself. The one was like, I'll see you in a couple weeks. Sis, don't you worry. We're gonna be up in there. Like it's it's been a journey. It's been a journey. It's going to continue to be a journey. And I also want to point out too that May is also Mental Health Awareness
Hmm.
Month as well
Yep.
Mhm.
too.
Yep.
So I even love this conversation, this Ask Your Auntie, that much more, because it is a time for us to make sure that we have this conversation, to make room for this conversation. And it doesn't just have to happen in May. This conversation
Hmm.
should be a norm. And it will only be a norm until once we start to accept and embrace that this is a normal thing that
Mhm.
people go through, and it doesn't make you less than.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you for sending
Mm.
this question in. We're here for anything you may need. Give us a follow up if you feel comfortable, whatever it may be. But just know, like, you have a broader community, even outside, like the aunties. Just know,
Mhm.
tap into the community. We're all here to help and support and uplift one another. So continue to send your questions to aya@minorityReport.com or DM us or text us, or you see us at the mall. Do people go to the mall anymore? Wherever you see us at the bar, wherever. But
Mall of America is always packed.